everybody, and welcome back to week number 13 of the College Football Betting Breakdown Show. I'm your host, as always, Sean, PSU fans too, Newsham. Joining me, per usual, my co-host, Alex Fearmyturtle Hardin. Alex, we finally put together a week in which we did not lose. Unfortunately, we did not go 3-0 each, but we did not lose a game.
Yeah, we'll take it. I said last week we're going to get back to picking winners, and we picked only winners and pushes. So yeah. I will take that anytime.
I'll tell you what, anyone that has any issues with going 2-0-1 on a weekend, like, no, you like that. You take that all day. So quick recap of week number 12. I was 2-0-1, which pushes me to 20-14-2 on the season. So feel pretty good about that I'm plus 6 games over the season. So hopefully some of you guys have been tailing me into some of those bets. I like Baylor +3 versus TCU. I said that I really liked money line, but we aren't doing that because of the show. Luckily, that was the case because I would not have won. TCU with another horseshoe up their ass and pulled out a win to win 29-28, but it did cover the 3 points. Texas -9, which you also liked. Texas absolutely blew out Kansas, which I don't even think 55-14 is fair. It was worse than that. And then another game that we both had that ended up a push was UCLA +3 against USC. It ended up being 48-45. I have a lot of issues with how UCLA finished that game. They got the ball back with 2.5 minutes left, down 3, and they just didn't run the ball at all. They're running the ball well all game. I don't understand why. USC was putting one dude in the box, and they just didn't run Charbonnet, which I didn't understand at all because you could have just ran Charbonnet over and over again. They had 2 timeouts and 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left. So what was your thoughts at the end of that game?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I think we were on the right side though. All things considered. It was a pretty impressive Caleb Williams game, but I still think UCLA should have found a way. I mean, it was a bit back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA to me was the way better team early, and then they had a really bad patch for 3 drives where I messaged you and I said, DTR just fell apart. It looked like he just fell apart.
Well, I mean, he was literally falling apart, with he was bleeding all over the place and his thumb and his leg. It was just, yeah, he was he definitely toughed it out.
He did. I messaged you that too. I was impressed. DTR, we have seen a lot of DTR at this point in his career. He's played a lot of games, and one thing you can always say about him is that he will give it everything he has. He may not be the best, may not be the most accurate sometimes, but he is going to tough it out and give you what he has. Also, he was clearly concussed, and they just did not care and rushed him back in the game. Anytime a guy is down for 10 seconds, can't get up, and then is up shaking the cobwebs out, they're probably concussed. And nope, nothing happened. He was just good to go. He missed 1 play and then came back in.
Do you like the new trend in football where if someone gets knocked over and they're a bit woozy, the lineman will come up and pull them up immediately and just to avoid just to avoid the guy laying on the ground he's concussed.
Yeah,
it's getting pretty bad.
I feel like there's 2 moves, right? There's move number 1. The lineman pulls them up immediately and hugs them so you can't see them wobble. And then there's also the hold them down, but act like it's a leg injury or
something. It's
or a rib injury. You hold them down,
hold your leg.
Your leg hurts, buddy. And yeah. I mean, look, we're not trying to joke about it. It just is how things are going now. Teams are trying, as much as it is not true. Teams are very clearly not even just in college football. In the World Cup today, we saw the goalie for Iran got absolutely knocked out and destroyed. And they were giving him smelling salts and stuff. And he kept in the game and then collapsed again because he couldn't go. So we're not trying to make jokes about it, but it is an observation, right? We're watching the games and it's oh, that guy's concussed. And then you just see him come back in the game after 1 play.
Yeah. I mean, the real thing is that it's just so different than what we're used to. We're used to seeing guys getting concussed, being wobbly, falling over and then being back in the game next series. It happened every week in the past. So it's just a different way because I know playing DFS, we're more focused on the players. So if your guy gets tackled and he gets up slowly, you're nervous every time one of your guys gets tackled.
Oh yeah. Today, even the World Cup today, I messaged you. I said the one guy looked hurt he came off hurt eventually. But it just, you watch these games and every time you just see something on Saturday, the Baylor game that we talked about in a bet, we both played Josh Cameron in DFS and we watched him. I told you I think he got banged up on a play, and you're like, I didn't even see it. Sure enough, he never played again. He went to the tent, and we never saw him again on a pretty non-threatening tackle where he just got injured somehow. But like, yeah, it's definitely like if I see a guy get knocked down with a concussion or a headshot, and you and I have talked about it, like it seems like there's way more headshots and concussions than we've ever seen before this year.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty rough. But just to cap out the conversation, I was 2-0-1, pushed the UCLA, had the Texas game with you, and then also had Tulane, and they kind of steamrolled SMU early in the week. So I'm 18-17-1, just clinging above 500, which I'll take considering my start of the season, the first few weeks. So we're going with above 500. Good time. Try to pick some more winners.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys, we're going to talk about week 13 here, last week of the college football regular season. We haven't really discussed about what we're going to do with the college football conference championship week. Alex, our good friend here, has punched a ticket to the King of the Beach live final in the NFL. So that week he will be out of town. But I think we'll probably still get stuff up that week. And then bowl season, we haven't really discussed that either. So make sure you guys keep tuned to us to know sort of what we're planning to do for that. Also, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please make sure to smash the like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. All right, heading into week 13, we are going to have some games here that have some implications. I do notice that a certain person decided to skip a certain MAC game this week that is for the conference title game. So some disrespect to the MACtion from Alex over there on Tuesday night. But hey, it is what it is. I let him create the list, and that's where we're going to go. So first game on the list that we have, Tulane traveling to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's -3. Ben Bryant left last week, injured, did not return. Evan Prater came in and played. They won pretty easily.
Oh, so they're getting an upgrade at quarterback.
So I was going to say, I don't think Alex knew that this happened because this wasn't on a DFS main slate, and he didn't look at that part of things. So I believe Prater is going to be the quarterback. I'm not sure on that. We have not seen anything else on Ben Bryant, but he left early in the game, and I'm thinking he probably will not play. But yeah, basically, Alex and I both think that Prater's an upgrade over Ben Bryant. He's more athletic for sure. They definitely will change their entire offense, however. So I tend to like Cincinnati here. I'm not sure I want to play it because I'm a little hesitant to just go in here because Tulane's a pretty solid team. So anyways, what's your thoughts here knowing that Prater is likely probably going to start?
Yeah, I lean Cincinnati, but it's ultimately a stay away. Tulane's really solid. This is a tough spot for them, tough travel spot, playing on the road. Cincinnati usually has a pretty good home field. I like their upside with Prater at quarterback. It should be a good game, but it's ultimately a stay away. But I definitely do have a slight lean to Cincinnati.
For sure. All right, next game, we have Baylor, Texas. Texas looked good last week. They gave the ball to Bijan Robinson. It's weird what happens when you give the ball to Bijan Robinson and let him play. Baylor, on the other hand, I mean, here's the thing. Baylor is frustrating to me because the clear best running back on their team is Richard Reese. I don't think it's close, but they just aren't giving him the ball lately. So it's been a bit confusing. However, I've watched probably 5 Baylor games this year, maybe 6. And every game you watch, you watch their offense and you're like, the play calling is really good. And like they're kind of a methodical offense, but it typically ends up being plays where you're like, all right, that was a good play call. And they sort of attack what is being given to them a lot. So like I'm not the biggest fan of Baylor. It's not the most fun watching Baylor games to me, but I typically find their game plans and their actual play calling to be pretty good. This is probably a stay away for me. It's a bit touchy. I don't love Texas giving over a touchdown. So like if I lean anyway, it's Baylor. The issue is when I'm watching the Baylor games and like their most talented players not getting the ball, it's frustrating. Also, Josh Cameron, who we mentioned, if he's out, which I'm going to assume he is, because if you generally don't finish a game and you like miss like 3 quarters and you don't come back in, it makes me think you're probably not going to play the following week. But he's really good in the run blocking. Every play was designed to go towards Cameron. So, anyways, what's your thoughts here on the Baylor Texas game?
Actually, like Baylor this game quite a bit, getting 8.5. So, like the Texas thing, yes, they look good. Kansas defense is just awful, pathetic. And it was pretty much all on Bijan. Like Bijan wasn't breaking long touchdown runs because the line was blocking for him. He was literally just like taking everybody on like one-on-one and making them miss. Like I don't think this showed anything for the Texas side other than Bijan's elite, and we knew that. This is going to be a totally different game than against Kansas. So like I think Baylor's going to play this tight. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Baylor's even live. I'd sprinkle some on the money line, but for the purposes of the show, I do like the 8.5 as a side.
Yeah. All right. Next game, we see North Carolina versus North Carolina State. North Carolina pathetically ended their season last week. I don't know what they were doing against Georgia Tech, but it was not playing good football, and they pathetically lost. NC State's probably going to be without MJ Morris for the rest of the year, it seems like. We see North Carolina is about a 6.5-point favorite. Totals around 65.5 here. I lean North Carolina, but it's probably not something I want to play. Do you have anything differently here?
No, I really don't even have a lean or an opinion. Like it was just a pathetic performance last week. And that's what happens when your defense is just terrible. If the offense isn't like bailing you out constantly, that's what happens. So they finally got punished. And it was crazy that like there's some people talking about how they were like a potential like college football playoff dark horse if things broke their ways. And I'm just like, this team is not very good. They're not even a top 30 team in the country. So it's probably good that they lost. Like they're ranked 13th. Like I do not buy that. The advanced metrics will bear out that they're not even close to that. And I think that's pretty accurate. They've had a fairly soft schedule, and I think they're a bit overrated. I mean, quarterback play has been amazing, but their defense is just pathetic.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterback play and just overall, man, I feel like the Heisman is just so lukewarm this year. It's just like nobody deserves it. Everyone's just bad.
They should just like pass and not give it out.
Like, I mean, who's gonna like? It's probably gonna be Stroud, and like Stroud has not been very good at all. Like Hooker is out. They sort of blew up coming down the stretch. Like I don't see how it's Hooker. Corum's hurt. I don't really see how it's gonna be Corum anyways. Stroud just not been impressive. Drake May, they choked the season away against Georgia Tech. Who else is really even in the conversation? Like it's pretty much Stroud at this point, right? Like you just give it to Stroud and be like, he was a guy. And
this is like the default Heisman of all default Heisman.
Yeah, like I mean, I feel like I don't know, like it just feels very, very poor. But that's a whole nother topic for another show. All right, next game we go to the big boy in the Big Ten. We have Michigan against Ohio State. As you guys see here, it is around 7.5 on most lines. Totals 57.5. Opened at 61.5. I would have been hammering the under at 61.5. I kind of still like the under 57.5. So here's the thing. I don't know if either team's going to have either of their top two running backs. I think Blake Corum's probably going to be out for Ohio State. I think that Don Edwards is questionable at best for Michigan. I think that Travion Henderson probably will not play. I think Mayan Williams will probably not play. We saw Dallin Hayden absolutely smash and carry Ohio State to a salvage victory against your Terrapins last week. And the thing is, here's the thing, right? If you remove the running backs from the game and you just pretend that there's not going to be much running back production, Michigan doesn't have much else. That's pretty much it. Ohio State has a much more dynamic offense that is a lot more able to move and go around. I think my favorite play in this game, however, is under 57.5. I think both defenses are good enough to keep this under, but it's definitely like, as you guys see here, open at 61.5. We've seen moves from all the way down to 57.5. It went from 61.5, 59.5, 58.5, 57.5. It was pretty quick. I still think I like the under. Also, you could have inclement weather. It's too far out for me to give you guys a good weather conversation. It's Monday. We record these on Monday typically to try to give you guys as good of lines as we can. But it's in a situation where we could definitely see some inclement weather here, which would definitely push towards the under anyway. So, like, I like the under in this game. What do you think in this one?
I don't see how Michigan wins this game. So it's Ohio State for me. That's the side that I'm kind of on. I'd probably lean them and covering the spread as well, but I don't have a strong conviction on the spread really. So ultimately it's a pass for me, but I think I agree with like Ohio State just has way more paths to beat you. Also, Dallin Hayden's not bad.
No,
so,
I
like,
agree.
It's
none
not
of
like
let's be honest, like right, like both teams, none of the running backs are that bad. Like,
no, but there's a bigger drop off between Corum and Edwards to the next tier in Michigan than there is in Ohio State.
I already don't think very much of Mayan Williams or Travion Henderson, as you know. Like, I think they're both fine. Well, like, they're both
one of them is nicknamed Meatball, so I don't know how good you can be if you're a running back Meatball. Anyway,
I mean, I for what it's worth, I agree. I don't see how Michigan wins this game without the running backs. Not to say the guys behind are bad, but Ohio State's just way more dynamic. And in a situation like this, I want the dynamic offense. The issue is when you push it to 7.5 or 9.5, whatever you think it's going to be, it's a bit more tricky. But I like the under. I just think that it's going to be hard for points to be scored here.
I did tell you last week that Maryland always plays better versus Ohio State than they should.
You did. You just didn't tell me the week before how bad Maryland is against Penn State. I told you how bad.
I mean, I wasn't advocating for Maryland in any way in that game. Like, it was that game was a funeral waiting to happen.
It was a rough one to say the least. All right, next game, Iowa State against TCU. TCU horseshoe is large. Like, that horseshoe up that butt is big. And I've watched quite a few Iowa State games. They are so dull.
Their offense is so bad.
It's so bad. I'll tell you what. I watched their game like at least 3/4 of it this weekend. Xavier Hutchinson had like 4 highlight reel catches that were like unbelievable. But then they got the ball to the 1. They had like 6 snaps inside the 2. They ran the ball at the back of running back 5 times up the middle, did nothing. And then they threw like something stupid like out of the end zone or something. It was terrible. I'm just watching them. Like, it was a 7-3 game and they got to the 1 twice. I just did nothing. I'm just like, just sneak the ball. You guys are terrible. Just sneak the ball. So like, I tend to like TCU, but this is totally a game Iowa State can win. Their defense is very solid. They stay in every game. Every single Iowa State game is really solid. So, like, I think that there is a very real possibility Iowa State wins this game. If we were talking about a bet that I want to make from like a sort of longer type of odds, I like Iowa State money line. I think Iowa State can win this game outright. So if you want to take a flyer, Iowa State money line at plus 340, or maybe you can get a bit more, is pretty favorable to me. So I would lean the Iowa State spread as well, but I'm not like fist pumping this in because I just watch them and they're just abysmal every week. So what do you think here?
Yeah, that's a kind of a spicy take. I like it. Iowa State's offense is just so bad. They're 113th in SP plus offense. Like, they really have nothing except for like Xavier Hutchinson crosses. You get like the shallow cross, the medium cross, and then like maybe like twice a game, like a seam that he just never.
No, and you're forgetting the 10-yard out.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hutchinson's really good. Do you know how many catches Hutchinson has, by the way?
I mean, it's got to be like 100 and. How many games have they played?
They played like 11 games. It's
got to be like 115 or something.
Yeah, it's like 105, 110 ish. I know he surpassed 100 in the game. I don't know how many he got to. So my guess is he's at like 105 would be my guess.
Yeah, it's like clockwork for him. By the way, last week, what do you think TCU's post-game win expectation was? Like, it basically just looks at the game and all the stats and like saying this team should have won this game.
22%.
Oh my God, you're a Rain Man. Baylor 78%. So
yeah. I mean, I figured it'd be around that range. I figured it was in the 20 to 25 range. So that definitely checks out.
I mean, you just drilled it. So.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at this site, I'm just going to ask you after a game, like what their post-game win expectation was. So,
all right, next game we go to Alabama. Auburn against Alabama. Alabama minus 22.5. As you see, it's 21.5 some places, 22 some places. I would like this under 21 if I can. Auburn just sucks. Like, they're just bad. I don't really know.
I thought you're supposed to throw out the record books, right? You throw out the record books.
What?
It's a rivalry game, so you throw out the record books.
It is. I mean, you only gave us rivalry games this week, I think.
Well, I mean, it's rivalry week, so that tends to happen.
Yeah, it is. But like, Auburn's playing a bit better with Cadillac Williams, by the way. which isn't shocking.
Well, they have a pulse. So
yeah, well, that if you watch the game, like Cadillac Williams on the sideline, like excited, like giving them a pulse, whereas like previously they didn't have.
I mean, he wants to win this game very badly.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This is his Super Bowl. Like, I actually kind of like the points here.
I don't disagree. Well, why don't you talk about how you like the points here then?
I mean, I'm not going to bet it, but if I was forced to pick a side, I would take Auburn in 21.5, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to stay away, but like most of that stay away is just like, I don't know. What does Alabama really have to play for? Like, that's a team that, like, if they're not playing in the playoff, they don't care. So, like, I'm not saying they're going to lose because I don't think Auburn's very good. But I don't know. Like, is Jahmyr Gibbs really going to go out there with his injury and play? And, like, he didn't play on the weekend. Is he really going to go out here this week and play?
I mean, Alabama's going to make the playoff just because they always make the playoff.
They could. To be fair, everyone loses. Everyone's just losing. So, I actually said, so Penn State, if they beat Ohio State 2 weeks ago, I think Penn State would be like one Michigan win this weekend for making the playoff. Because I think there would have been a realistic shot Penn State gets in with one loss being to Michigan.
Yeah. So question, I guess, along those lines, do you think it's possible that the loser of the Michigan-Ohio State game can make the playoff, or it's effectively an elimination game?
No, I think the loser can make it. I don't know how the loser can't make it at this point. Like, I mean, everyone else is lost. I don't even know what's out there right now. Let me pull it up.
Multiple times. Like, the only, like, because there's 4 undefeated teams, and then, like, the other ones are, like, 2-loss teams. Like, Clemson's the other 1-loss team in USC, but they're further back. Yeah.
Like, at what point do you really put Clemson in over one of the Big Ten teams? So, like, all right, let's just eliminate teams. Like, Tennessee's gone. They're gone. So that leaves you 8 teams. Alabama is not getting in unless I don't see how Alabama gets in. So that leaves Clemson. I don't see how you take Clemson. Clemson's been just dog shit. They're terrible. Like, and saying that as nicely as I can. LSU can probably, if LSU beats Georgia, they will get into the playoff. Like, if they go and they beat Georgia, they will likely be in the playoff, I would assume. The issue is they have to beat Georgia twice. So I think LSU is going to have to beat Georgia back-to-back weeks, which unfortunately that is going to be a difficult task. And if they beat Georgia back-to-back weeks, I still think Georgia maybe gets in. But at that point, like, if you lose to a team back-to-back games, you can't really take them, right? Georgia would have to be out in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they lose
twice. I can't picture how that happens, but if it did, like, I don't see how you take Georgia if they lose twice. USC is sitting there. USC, if they win against Notre Dame and then win the the Pac-12 title game, they have a shot. TCU, same thing. They beat Iowa State, but again, I think they might lose to Iowa State. I think they're going to lose to Iowa State or have a chance. I wish this was like, do you watch Game Day where they have like their big dog of the week or whatever they call it?
Sometimes.
That would be my super dog. They call it the super dog or whatever. That would be my super dog this week. I would be taking Iowa State. But I think it's going to be hard for Michigan or Ohio State not to get in because you either are going to have to take Clemson, who just isn't very good, or like you are going to have to take all right, LSU loses, they're gone. If they lose one of the games to Georgia, they're gone. So like that eliminates them. Bama's gone. Clemson, I don't see how you take Clemson. I think it would be really difficult to take Clemson at this point. So if USC wins out and TCU wins out and Michigan or Ohio State loses, they might take one of them over USC because like we watch enough USC. I think Ohio State and Michigan are clearly better than USC. Would you agree?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's going to be any of those situations. What's going to be interesting is like TCU loses, USC loses. Like, who do they even
It's
take?
possible. It's definitely possible some
it's going to be
shenanigans will happen.
All right. Anyways, enough about that, guys. Sorry about the tangent, but I think you guys will enjoy that tangent to begin with. All right, next game, we got Oregon State. Look, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not sure if Bo Nix is going to go. We've seen the line move pretty significantly towards Oregon State, so I'll let you take this one.
I lean Oregon State at home. Civil War matchup. It's a tough place to play. Bo Nix did not run at all last week. It kind of limits their offense. So I would lean that way. It's not one of my plays of the week though, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would lean that way, but I'm not really touching it, so I'm not going to go that way. All right, next game we go to Michigan State against my Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State is an 18-point favorite. How did this happen? It opened at 7 and it's up to 18.5.
That must, I don't know what happened there. At this point, I'm out though. After it's like ran away.
No, like it legit went there too.
It was probably some book that opened a bad number.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm probably not.
Somebody got fired for opening with a 7.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. If I was picking a side, I would take Penn State. Like, I don't think Michigan State's very good. I think Penn State's pretty reasonable. I think Penn State's offense is pretty dynamic this year. I think what we've learned about Penn State is they're pretty good. They're not like as good as Michigan or Ohio State, but they are pretty good. Like, they are probably a top 8 team in the country-ish.
They had outcomes this year where they would be like in the playoff picture.
If they beat Ohio State,
yeah.
If they beat Ohio State, I would say they're a pretty decent shot at making the playoff. Unfortunately, they didn't beat Ohio State, so they have no shot. But like, they were the better team in that game. The only game Penn State was not the better team in my opinion, was Michigan. Michigan absolutely dominated Penn State. Michigan thrashed them. But Penn State was, in my opinion, better than Ohio State when they lost to them. They just had a lot of untimely turnovers. Don't get me wrong, Ohio State made big plays when they had to. But like, watching that game, Penn State was pretty reasonable in that game. So I think we both are staying away from this one. All right, next game, we have LSU going to Texas A&M to play. I mean, we talked earlier about how pathetic Iowa State is. I'll tell you what, Texas A&M is sure that pathetic as well. I read there was
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
There was an update today that said that Devin Achane and Evan Stewart are hopeful to play this week. I'm sitting there reading. I'm like, sure, they're not hopeful to transfer because that's sure what it seems like to me. I mean, Achane obviously would leave and go pro, but like, I find it hard to believe Evan Stewart is on Texas A&M last year. I like LSU. I just think Texas A&M is like, you stick a fork in them, they're done. Like, I don't like Texas A&M, what I see with Texas A&M. So I like LSU. I like that I can get it at 9.5 on FanDuel, so I'll be taking that for betting purposes on this. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. I really like LSU here. I don't think it's a spot where like Texas A&M can get up for this game. Like sometimes you get like, let's play the spoiler. But like you can't, like, this isn't the team for that. Like they're not going to rally behind Jimbo and get up for this last game. Like it's just like, this is like an all-time pathetic season. Like,
yeah, I mean, every game they've gone up for has been pathetic.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they were struggling this weekend. What did they end up doing in the game? I don't know what it finished at.
It was like 20-3 or something. I don't know.
No, that's it.
What was it?
Oh man, it was 20-3. They won 20-3 at home against UMass.
Yeah, like why is this number 9.5? Like I must be missing something here.
UMass had like 100 yards of offense, 150 yards of offense, and Texas A&M legitimately struggled against UMass. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry.
Once they get a hold of Jimbo's complex offense, they'll be good.
Yeah,
okay?
like
it's just like it takes some time.
Man, that is rough to say the least. All right, last game of the slate. We have Notre Dame against USC. I like Notre Dame here. I would probably take Notre Dame money line. I'm not going to bet it for the purpose of the show. This feels like a letdown spot, and every time USC has played like a team that has like a reasonable defense this year, I feel like they've struggled. And I feel like Notre Dame can do enough offensively against them that they can win this game outright. But again, I'm not going to take it. I have other bets I like a bit more, but I do like Notre Dame. I'm coming at you with some dogs this week, Alex.
You are. That's good because I actually like the USC side. I was really impressed with Caleb Williams last week. Austin Jones looked like a solid replacement. They have some momentum rolling. This is a big game for them. Obviously, rivalry game, but like it means more for USC in terms of the picture for this season. Obviously, I mean, I think Notre Dame's gotten a little bit better, and Marcus Freeman's kind of settled into that role. So I think things are starting to look a little bit up for them heading into next year. But for this game, I like USC to come out pretty strong. And sometimes Notre Dame's offense becomes kind of sluggish if USC can stop the run whatsoever, which they've had a lot of issues with the season. So it's not like they're going to shut them down, but they've gotten better. And I've always thought, like, I was really down on USC, especially their defense early in the year. I always thought they'd get better and improve, but they haven't been great. A little bit, but
it looks better than what it did early in the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, I just like USC at home, take care of business here. I know the line's moving in favor of Notre Dame. I would be less interested at 6.5, but I'll take the 2-point move and grab it at 4.5.
For sure. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up here for us on week number 13. Hope you guys enjoyed the tangents we went off on. I think they were pretty like at least on topic. So that's good. So, all right, Alex, I'll let you go first with what bets you like for week number 13.
I am Baylor plus 8.5 versus Texas. I am LSU minus 9.5 at Texas A&M and USC minus 4.5 versus Notre Dame.
All right, we're going to share one again this week. I like Michigan, Ohio State under 57.5. Iowa State plus 10.5 versus TCU. LSU plus 10 or LSU minus 9.5 versus Texas A&M. So we're going to share that one for the week. Hopefully we continue pulling out some winners here. Hopefully we clear out the season with a bit more of a hot streak. I've been pretty good lately. I know you have as well. So hopefully we can close it out here. That's going to wrap it up for us here on week number 13. Good luck to everyone this week. May you guys have some big winners. For Alex, I'm Sean. We'll see you guys next week.
See you.